Well, let's talk now to Maleiha Malik. She's from the NGO Education Above All, who seek to enhance economic development through education. They're also concerned about the welfare of the many African students who've fled that conflict in Ukraine. Maleiha, thank you very much for joining us. What more can be done for these students?
Well, thank you very much for having me on the programme. And I think what we're seeing in the last few days is a huge amount of sentiment and goodwill towards these students. I was really moved by the report of that individual man from the educational institution in Poland, who's turned up in the institutions, Poland and Hungary, pulling together to offer alternatives to these young people who've travelled a long way to seek out higher education, that opportunities that they can't always get in their own countries. I think that what more that can be done is for certain organisations, international organisations, such as UNESCO, which has a mandate for higher education and for further education, to really start to do more in this situation, to try and coordinate and try and make sure that these ad hoc responses for these students turn into a more systematic response. What we want to do is to make sure that they don't lose the learning that they've done. That young woman who's the dentistry student, we want to make sure she graduates after 5 years. And I think a lot of organizations like UNESCO...
Maleiha, if I may just jump in here. If I may just jump in here, I mean, yes. These are unprecedented times, and we haven't quite seen anything like this in recent times. We've seen the Ghanaian government trying to take the initiative. Is this a route other African countries perhaps should be taking?
Yes, I think that the countries from which the students should come should really speak out. I think the Ghanaian Deputy Foreign Minister's statements, the statements of the President of Nigeria last week are really important, because I think these students are vulnerable. They need their own home countries within Africa to speak out and to defend their rights whilst they're in Europe. So I was really pleased to hear those developments taking place. And I think one thing that all of us can do, and the African students and those who support them can do, is ask their own countries also to lobby and speak out on their behalf.
And if you had any advice for these students right now, if they were listening to you, what would you say to them?
I think what I'd say to them is that, they've been through a harrowing situation, to have lived through what they've lived through. But the same motivation, the same energy, the same character and determination that caused them to go and travel so far away to get a higher education. My main message to them is, please don't give up. We all support you. My foundation, Education Above All Foundation, is committed to helping the most students achieve their potential. We're here. International organizations are here. We all wish you well, and we will support you to make sure that your aspiration to a higher education and that goal is achieved.
Maleiha Malik from Education Above All, thank you very much for talking to us here on Focus on Africa. So quite a long road to navigate for these African students who've fled Ukraine, the war in Ukraine, but hopefully some of them are beginning to get answers to what happens to them next. Lukwesa, back to you in the studio.
Peter, thank you very much. Well, do stay with us here on Focus on Africa, because still to come after a turbulent build-up, the Winter Olympics opening ceremony takes place in Beijing.